Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my beautiful, sweet souls. How are you doing today? How are you feeling? I hope you're ready because we have a really special guest who is a pioneer and innovator in the realm of spiritual growth, Phillip Mountrose, who is an energy healer and author of so many books, including their new book, The Loving Power of Your Soul. Philip, with his wife, are also the founders of the Awakening Institute. And their nonprofit organization is to facilitate the unique gifts that each individual can blossom and bring into this world. Welcome, Philip. How are you doing today?
Very good and great to be with you, Veronica, and everyone.
It's such an amazing, when we just connected, I could feel and sense this energy. So many beings are coming to play with us. And now I'm looking forward to see where the conversation takes us today. To begin, you and your wife had founded this nonprofit institute. Can you please tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, my wife and partner, Jane Mountrose, and I developed this nonprofit Awakenings Institute devoted to honoring everyone's gifts and all of nature and helping everyone blossom and sending out more love in the world. And so our offerings, our consultations, our trainings, everything goes within that. And it's a nice way of focusing and sending out and amplifying your message and having kind of a bigger portal for people to enter into higher awareness and more love and healing and soul development.
And you mentioned animals as well, not just people.
Well, when we say, sometimes people say sending out love to people, we think of all living beings and elementals everywhere and nature beings and nature itself. And just going out in the universe and other beings and other worlds. So if you kind of open your heart, that it's kind of beyond the left brain understanding, but I think the right brain and the heart knows that we're connected with a vastness and oneness.
I don't know why this question comes in, but in a way, you're saying we're not the most important species in the world.
We're part of
We're not the
everything, but
center of the
not the
universe.
part. We're not the only part.
We're not the only part. Absolutely. We're here to harmonize the love and connection between everything that is. Because if you look at every single part of us, we relate to everything that is, nature, animals, every element out there.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear about your story. When was that pivotal moment that you're like, we need to create this institute? There's got to be a place where people can find those answers.
Right. I think there's a couple highlights, a couple aha breakthroughs, but the journey, well, kind of depends where you begin. I can begin from very early childhood, but let me pick it up from when I went to film school, UCLA Film School, where I was thinking maybe I'll try to be a film director or writer. And as I got into that, I didn't think that was quite right. And one of the films I did, which I aired in front of all of the audience, all my peers and so forth, was actually a very bad film. And it kind of sent me into a depression, like, kind of clipping my wings and some of my ego. And it really sent me ultimately, though, into a spiritual journey of deeper awareness of who I was on a deeper level. And I did a lot of different things, which was back years ago. So there wasn't as much available as there is in today's internet world, online world. But I eventually went and joined a Gurdjieff Ouspensky group, which is a spiritual esoteric organization which taught a lot of mystical principles and practices, which was great. And I met my wife, Jane Mountrose, there, and we became good friends and eventually married.
You
But there
just
was
stopped
something
quickly over there to pick up your wife.
right. It was part of the journey. So I was very fortunate. It's part of my soul plan. But something that became clear to us, Veronica, and this is a pattern that a lot of people will know about as I describe it here, is there was a leader, sort of something of a guru, a very charismatic leader to this Gurdjieff Ouspensky group. And he was awakened. And so we had to kind of go through him to awaken, which is fine up to a point. But at a certain point, we said, well, why can't we just do that directly ourselves? Why do we need to be dependent on someone else? And it becomes something where you're only can evolve if you're going through, quote, this organization or this person, that pattern which is very common on the earth. So we wanted to get out of that pattern, left the group. We were shunned and so forth, but we found a lot of good things afterwards, holistic hypnotherapy and other modalities. We developed a lot on our own, holistic EFT tapping. We developed our brand of it. The spiritual kinesiology, healing from the soul. We just kept going on, following our heart. Meantime, though, we were supporting ourselves in traditional jobs. I was an educator. My wife, Jane, was an architect, but she just became burnt out. She felt like her soul was dying. She got chronic fatigue. She couldn't even work anymore. It was just so disharmonious, the job. And I talk to people all the time who have been burnt out, can't work anymore, are on disability just because of the dog eat dog, the harsh world, which is part of what we're here to learn and experience, of course. And for me, I sort of, even though I enjoyed teaching and the classroom, educating children and so forth, I really loved and still enjoy children, although I don't have any of my own, but I was with many thousands during those days. I needed to do something else, and it was more the spiritual teaching and healing and finding out about purpose for myself and how to teach that. And we wrote a lot of books and have shared a lot of classes and insights and consultations along the way. So that's a little snapshot of where I've been and where I'm going. And
Sounds like a beautiful story, and no story has a true beginning. There's so many, and it's usually a trajectory. We'd say it's a
right.
journey of events. I want to go straight to the juicy part. Let's talk about soul. I would love to hear your perspective on the fragmentation of the soul and how can we establish how many of those fragments we possess at this point and how many we need to do work to bring back.
That's the perfect question. That's a great question that I'm sure people watching this are very concerned with and maybe grappling with. They probably are. So the way I understand it, and a piece of it anyways, is since our many lifetimes, our soul and then our bigger soul goes through many phases and many experiences. And during this time, it's like going in a lifetime, we have a lot of wears and tears and things, inner wears and tears and mental challenges and emotional challenges and physical challenges. And some of them sort of tear us apart. It just seems to be part of the soul's journey to have these challenges, like the hero's journey, if it becomes a hero's journey, and to challenge and stretch us. I thought of an analogy the other day. It's sort of like if you were given, you're planning on the other side, and you're saying, here's a whole bunch of situations you could face or encounter that could stretch you and grow you. Here, try this one, try that one. Some of them are very inspirational and exciting and loving and wonderful people and wonderful discoveries, and others are very difficult, grief and loss and illness and rejection and all these things. But they're all into the fold for growth, and the high ones elevate you and inspire you, and then the low ones, it's there to contemplate, to accept, to learn from, to grow and heal. And some of these are these fragments of the soul, and they seem to be recurring from lifetime to lifetime. So if you're dealing with, like my wife is dealing a lot with betrayal, I'm dealing with patterns of success. And so these keep coming up, and you can go into your past lives and see how they were dealt with, and unfinished business is there. And that's where karma is, just taking action. Not that you have to do certain things, but things that you want to learn and grow from. So it's a journey. And I have something I was just sort of communing with my soul. That might be a little poetic way of describing what I just put into sort of a more linear description. I like to commune with masters or my soul daily. And I did one before this presentation, before our interview, I should say.
Oh, I felt it. The technology, everything was just going all over the place. I had to call on spiritual technology guides to just hold
You
space
may
for
have picked
it.
up, I was saying, hey, let me do, usually I commune with the masters, maybe on a theme or just what's up or
Yeah,
something. And I
we're
said,
definitely connected.
so since I'm doing this interview, this discussion with you, I said, let me, what would be good to know about, what would be good to talk about. So this is about 3 sentences. So this was the communing with my soul. And sometimes I do masters, but my soul said this: Stay still in the moment and let life show you its inner meaning, messages, and jewels. Sometimes the diamond is indeed in the rough, and you need hardship and challenges to bring out the inner beauty and shine its radiance. At other times, there is no need to transform or heal. The world is beautiful as it is, in all its glory, mystery, and magnificence.
That's beautiful. And it's so aligned with the download that I received last night, right before I went to sleep. Because I always look for different methods, different hacks to bring us back to that oneness, to connect to the source. Like I am, that's my bread and butter. And there was like, what is the next hack? What is the next hack? What is the next hack? And I download them and then I teach them to my inner circle and download and I teach them to my inner circle. But I'm like, but what is the graduation? They're like, the graduation is when you're going to realize that you already are, that all of these hacks that you're going to use your entire life and teach to others is to simply give you glimpses of what you already are. But if you literally just drop everything and go so deep into the knowing that you already are, the quest is complete. And for a moment,
Graduation
and
is,
for a moment, I'm like, oh my God, this is enlightenment. This is what it tastes like. And then the mind comes in with the next thought, and here I go.
and we're back again,
Yes. So I'm
back
like,
on the
okay,
wheel, running around.
it's really simple. However, we're constantly in duality to break free from our thoughts, to quiet the mind, to find the way of silence, the glimpse. And that's when we get to taste that euphoria, the true power of our soul. Wow, this came so strongly. Thank you for sharing that. That was beautiful.
Thanks for sharing what you just did. That was beautiful. And the graduation, you could say, is when you realize there is no graduation. It's just an ongoing journey and spiraling, maybe upward, a never-ending journey, never-ending story.
And that's what makes it beautiful. I do have a question for you because as you're on this path of teaching and helping others, have you encountered soulless people that came your way?
I probably wouldn't put it that way. It seems like some well-known figures may be soulless or de-evolving
It's
or
coming
have
from the
lost their
collective,
way.
so
Yeah, I don't know if people actually can remove their soul if they're being. It may be some other way of describing it, but there's certainly a problem and maybe a backward slide or a loss of soul. There's that idea of selling your soul to the devil idea that still holds true. A kind of selling out idea of your virtues or your souls, even though life, we're not pure and perfect and we're continually having challenges, and forgiveness is a big part of the journey.
forgiveness and remembering. I would love to hear about the EFT trainings that you're doing in your institute.
Right. EFT, the emotional freedom technique, is a tapping acupressure technique that's well known to millions of people around the world because it's so effective. It's based on ancient Eastern acupuncture medicine, which is done with needles. This is just done with your fingers, where you tap certain key acupressure points, which balances your body. And it's relatively new modality since the early 1990s. And the man, Roger Callahan, who started it, just had a woman who had a fear of water, a phobia. He was doing a therapy session with her, and he just had an idea of her tapping a couple pressure points, which he knew dealt with some of the areas that she'd be phobic or anxious about. And after she tapped it, he did the therapy by his poolside. She said, something happened. He goes, what? He said, the water, it doesn't bother me at all. And she just, at that point, cured her water phobia. And
Mm.
sometimes there are these miraculous things tapping the points and kind of miraculous healing. Certainly, it's not always that. But over the years, some people have had incredible healings. And sometimes phobias are kind of simple things. And sometimes they're very intricate from past lives. Often phobias are not as identity oriented, so they're not as big. So the tapping, going back to the EFT tapping point, you say an affirmation targeted to the problem, like even though I have this fear of water, or even though I have I doubt I can succeed. And then the second part is I love and accept myself. So you say this affirmation and you tap another point, saying it a couple times, and then you're just tapping your points to balance your energy. And it seems very strange,
No,
but it
I feel
works
it as you
quite
do
well.
it. As you do it, I feel it because I was gonna ask the first question. I'm like, do you tap like, let's say you have a fear, so you voice the fear. Obviously, your physical body is already trained to react a certain way. So when you're tapping, then your body is focused on actually this point versus the fear, and that's how you break free from that pattern. Is that correct?
The idea is by doing this, you're the all the energy circuits, which is part of your uh, life force and balancing your chakras and energy system, which connects to your organs and all your physical systems. You're sending balance like acupuncture needles do, and it seems to be amplified by the affirmation, which the first part is, even though we like to say, even though part of me is afraid or is sick or has this doubt or fear, whatever the issue is. The second part is I love and accept myself. So that energy seems to put you into a higher state while you're balancing your body and your energy body. So there's it's kind of like resetting a circuit or rebooting your computer.
Is that a practice that you personally use every day?
I don't use it every day. I use it in combination with other modalities. Sometimes I use it alone. Sometimes I combine. Sometimes you just can tap the point as a tune-up too. And one of the processes, Jane and I, we've developed a lot of our own original process, dozens of them, which we teach and write about. Is the download is the phrase "anything is possible and miracles are happening now."
I
Anything is
love that.
possible and miracles are happening now. So that we call that the miracle reframe with EFT, or you could use it with other modalities. So to say, even though I have this fear of blank, even though I have this confusion, even though I'm angry with my partner, whatever it is, anything is possible and miracles are happening now. And you say that aloud 2 or 3 times, and then you start to lightly tap these points, these pressure points, and then you breathe and you
I was
pause
gonna
after
say
you
the
breathe.
third part. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll take you through. You're tapping the top of the head, the side of the eyes, the bridge of the nose, rather, the side of the eyes, under the eyes, about 5 or 6 times lightly, under the nose, the chin, the middle of the chin, lightly tapping with either hand. The collarbone, you can do either both hands. There's a ridge by your collarbone. And then under the arms, just tapping like you're embracing yourself. And what we like to do, we add in our holistic EFT. We do 2 other points, integrating the left and right brain. You're just tapping across your head. It's a balancing. You take a nice breath in. You say anything is possible and miracles are happening now if you want. And then you tap across the heart. And that's it. And that's one round. And you can do a couple rounds and other things can show up too. There can be layers to it.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel it. I really
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, it's a reset. So it's good to keep doing that.
It's almost like what I envision is your body, because obviously this is our technology, our body, our brain.
Right.
This is the technology, this is the center remote. So I just envision this center points, these buttons that once you touch it, then it instantly opens up the connection to that source.
Right.
And then it
It's opening
created
you up
this
to a
field.
bigger world, a bigger harmonious world. Right. And I
Beautiful.
would say it would be source. That's kind of the feeling. It just, you bypass a lot of your left brain, and you also get deeper and grounded in your body as well.
Yeah, because it's physical. Because there are many roads that lead to Rome, and that's just a very tangible one that every single person can do it
Hmm.
and sense it. So I encourage our listeners to go back and repeat this and try it for
Right.
yourself, like a certain affirmation.
Right. Yeah. And we have information on our website and written books about it, and there are other people who have too. So it's a pretty common modality. We like to add a holistic approach to it because it can be kind of mechanical and rather 3D, although it can work well on that level too, but you can do a lot with it.
What's the holistic approach part that you add to
The
it?
holistic approach is connecting the heart, the left and right brain. We call that the reset process, the part of the tapping, and then tapping into your heart and making it more heart centered and more focused on connecting with your body, mind, spirit in it. So
Mm.
trying to go deeper beyond just the symptoms. In other words, sometimes it can remove symptoms, which is great. But everything we do at Awakenings Institute is to get beyond the symptoms, to go to the deeper meanings.
Would this be a great modality for physical pain, or it's mostly for emotional pain?
It's especially for emotional pain, but since the emotional pain is related to physical pain, it can work for that. One time I was doing, I think it was an interview or something. The lady was a call in and she had a hurt wrist, for instance. So we did one of our processes, the holistic process. You added on to EFT, we call it a get through process. So if you kind of know what you're tapping about, if you're more aware of what the issue is, you can heal it better because you're learning something from it, rather as opposed to just removing symptoms. So I asked her, I was doing the process. Okay, so you have some physical pain in your wrist. Okay, and what do you like emotionally? What's it when you breathe in, when you connect with that wrist? What's it like emotionally? And that might sound strange first, maybe not to our audience, but she said, I'm feeling kind of anxious. Okay, so that was one level, emotional level. What are you anxious about? What's the world like in this anxiety? What's that about? She goes, well, I need to go back into the workforce and I'm anxious whether I'll be able to get a job. Okay, so that was another level, a belief level. And then you can take it another level, like how are you feeling about yourself when you're in this place where you're anxious and not sure about the job? She goes, I'm feeling pretty bad about myself. So she's sort of judging herself, a deeper heart kind of shut down, a shame level, which we have regularly when we're in problems. So then we did the EFT, even though I'm anxious about my job, we changed the affirmation, even though I have this anxiety about getting work. And then after, I think it was 1 or 2 rounds, she felt fine. Think about job, feel very calm now. And her wrist felt better too.
It's amazing. That just reminds me of the earlier in my career when I was transitioning from holistic coaching because I was helping people with nutrition to the emotional healing. I remember there was a lady that she wanted to cancel the session because it was just she was physically in so much pain. She's like, I can't physically show up. And I'm like, well, let's try something different because I'm opening up to this field. And I'm like, all you have to do is just listen to the voice.
Hmm.
And she listened to the voice. And by the end of the session, I'm like, how do you feel? She's like, my back pain is gone. She's like,
Right.
"How did you do this?" And then she also weighed herself and she was 3 pounds lighter, which that was the first time I heard that. So, like, some results could be as instant as, during the session or afterwards. My question for you is, how do you work with people? Do you facilitate group healings? Do you mostly teach your methods so everyone can go out and do the same for themselves? How do you work with
Well,
them?
we still do individual sessions with people, Jane and myself, but we do most of our work is through a broader, either group trainings, courses. Um, Sometimes we'll do webinars and just free things as well. We have a newsletter where we're doing new videos and articles every month. But we have deeper trainings where we train people in spiritual, holistic coaching and healing on a weekly basis. And that's our deepest, most comprehensive training in a smaller group. And then we write books too. So different ways of getting our messages out and helping people.
And if someone felt the connection with you and they're like, okay, I want to join in your world and I want to learn from you. What does that look like? What can they expect from joining one of your groups, on your spiritual groups?
If they were to join our spiritual coaching and healing program, that's a year program. That's a deeper, comprehensive program. They're little trainings or trainings on how to do the EFT, like we did the holistic version. So we have trainings like that on our website. So they become very proficient in the deeper levels of EFT. And when you're doing it, you're first really healing yourself, as you know. So they get a lot of healing. If they were actually to be in our live coaching, healing, spiritual coaching, healing program, they would probably make a tremendous amount of ahas, transformations, and breakthroughs. And we actually map out the spiritual stages or activations of that people go through. And we discovered that, Veronica, by just watching people, because we've offered this particular program for over 25 years. It's a very developed, proven, fun program and online. So the stages are where you, in the earlier stages, you're sort of just in a group and a tribe and you're just following your group. And then you start to break free from the group as you go to a further stage of your evolution. And then beyond that, you start to look at yourself inwardly because things aren't working, and inner child issues and things where there's fears and doubts. And that really is no longer tolerable. And your life might even be breaking down. And that's a lot of times where we're meeting and helping people heal and go through the deep healing and spiritual coaching in this program so they can actually go through the spiritual stage into the next stage of more expression and getting out there as a clear channel and in alignment with their purpose on a deeper level. So that's a
Mm.
little snippet of it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I noticed the energy being settled and kind of like the surface being prepared for our journey. Would you like to guide our VIP members into a beautiful journey to get that taste of what it's like to be in your world?
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So we'll go into a deeper expression of ourselves as a spiritual being having a human experience. We'll go to the top of the ethereal mountaintop and maybe even higher up to meet our soul and other guides and masters.
That sounds amazing.
And maybe I'll bring one in for this special meditation.
For whatever reason, I was waiting for you to count to five. I'm like, is that a five?
I did count to five.
Oh, you did. Wow, I
You
missed
were
it.
really deep. I did
I
count
was
to
so
five.
deep. All I heard is five, and I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for one, two, three, four, five. Yes, that was amazing. I just got some amazing downloads that I'm looking
You
forward to
really were
play
in a
with.
deep place. Yeah, the great. Well, I'm glad you went there. I found it very profound myself.
It was nice to play such a place that was beyond obviously my human mind because I was not aware. Wow, thank you for this gift and for our VIP members. I'm looking forward to see what opens up for you after going through this journey. One question that came during this process was, can you tell us what God means for you?
God means is a connection to everything and everyone, and I'm part of God. God is part of me. God is growing through me. I am growing through God. So a lot of the span of our experiences and much more are all God, our growing, our healing, our learning, our transforming. So
Mm,
it's the highest version and beyond what we can even understand is high transcendently so.
beautifully said. What would be one last thing that you would like to share with our souls that are searching for that God, for the inner God, for that light within them that somehow, some way during this training called life, they had forgotten? What would you say to them?
I'd say slow down, breathe, relax, take your next step, and know it will all work out.
So trust in the process.
Yes, that add that to it.
Isn't that one of the toughest thing for humans to do
It
is to
is. It's very hard to
trust?
trust, especially when things are quote not going well and everything is going to quote hell in the handbasket. That how are we getting another fine mess we've gotten ourselves into, as
Oh.
Oliver Hardy had said. But
When you
we'll
took us
find
to
our
the
way.
top of when you took us to the top of the mountain, I'm like, okay, what's the message for me? And my soul is like, surrender to divine timing. I'm like, oh, you know what you're asking is so much.
It
Like,
is tough at times. Yeah, it's just like how do I figure it out? Well, you can't figure it out.
Oh,
You
it's
have to
such a.
surrender to the process, as you said.
Do you hold retreats? You and your wife, do you ever host retreats that you get to work with people in
No, we
person?
don't. I do have a free gift for people, which is something that has like a lot of information, kind of a way of getting going on things too.
Beautiful. And I'm sure you'll share that with us and we'll have the link. Would you like
Yeah,
to?
it's a shortened link so people can remember it. It's a tinyurl.com/spiritual dash kit, tinyurl.com/spiritual dash kit. And this is for spiritual healers, light workers. It's some EFT, holistic EFT video. There's a special resources for checklist and liveness coaching checklist and some writings we've done. So there's a combination of very usable material in there that I think people will enjoy, and then they'll be connected with us as well to get fresh updates.
This is so profound. Normally I would go longer, but I'm like, I feel like we're in such a good place. And the nuggets that you shared with us certainly activate a certain level of curiosity of our beingness, of finding that road to Rome. And if you listening out there feel like ever selling your body tells you like, oh my God, this is the sound of Philip's voice, his presence, his wisdom, his way of bringing this. It's so close to my heart. That is my language. Then he's the person for you. And follow the links below and get in touch with and continue this journey of finding your true light, finding your true north. Philip, this has been such an honor and such a pleasure to have you today.
Great being with you, Veronica, and everyone in the summit.
Beautiful. Until the next time.